Great day, everyone. My name is Jereshia Hawk, and I am super excited to chat with you today. I'm an income strategist and recent corporate dropout, but I specifically help service-based business owners with 4Xing their revenue through sales and position strategy, basically helping individuals get beyond that six-figure mark who are doing coaches, consultants, content creators, helping those individuals really scale their business. And today we're going to be talking about a topic that is has been near and dear to my heart, even when I was in corporate America, and especially now that I'm full-time and my business owner. This is one that is definitely might be a tough conversation to talk about, but we're going to be sharing some statistics and just talking the facts about what it is like being a Black woman, not only like in business, but just being a Black woman who's trying to climb through either the corporate ladder or build beyond the expectations when it comes to building our businesses. So I'm interested. I see a lot of people hopping on live. Hey, Crystal. Hi, Sarah. Hey, Renee. Hello, Amisha, Tamika, Linda. As you ladies are hopping on, I know you guys might have seen some articles. These came out about maybe a year ago now. But the Sheryl Sandberg, the individual who wrote Lean In, there was an article that they published. They did a full debrief analysis report, really talking about why Black women are leaning in and getting nowhere. And I wanted to share some statistics about that and really talk about how that impacts us as business owners, in the sense that if you are a African-American woman, there are just unique challenges and barriers that we face when it comes to building our business that really, I think, can lead to some of us being discouraged, but also just hinders us from being able to scale our businesses beyond maybe where we're currently at right now. So as you guys are popping on, hi, Nia. Hello, Kanaya. Is it Kanai? I know I'm probably saying your name wrong. Hello, Loa. But as you guys are popping on, I am just interested to know, do you guys feel or resonate with the message that Black women are leaning in and getting nowhere? Just if you do resonate with that subject line, I know I cannot read her name. If you resonate with that subject line, pop in the comments and let me know and just say yes, I feel that. Yes, I can relate to that. And if you do want to go the extent of actually typing a little bit more out about how you feel, let me know if Black women are leaning in and getting nowhere. Do you resonate with that message? Do you not resonate with that message? And regardless, feel free to share your perspective on why that is. So first things that I like to start when even just talking about this discussion, I was doing a ton of research on just Black female-owned businesses, and I've been doing a lot of research on this from the get-go. So this is a huge reason why I started my business to begin with. Being a Black female engineer, I'm in a 1% in the country. And when I was in corporate America, you said you don't. Okay, feel free to share with us, why do you believe that you don't? Do you feel like Black women are leaning in and they are getting somewhere? Feel free to share your thoughts on this one. But being in the corporate environment, especially being an engineer in a predominantly white industry, which I think pretty much most of us come from predominantly white industries, whether we're in our corporate career or sometimes when you're walking in those boardrooms, I often felt and was the only one on so many occasions. And I started doing this research and I was trying to understand why is there such a lack of representation of women who look like me sitting at the top. Linda, feel free to share what you think on why you think that is. Because I want us to have a frank conversation about it and just even how I'm seeing it perpetuate into the world of entrepreneurship. But I was doing all this research and I realized that Black women on average, through multiple studies that were done, when they ask the question of, do you want more leadership opportunities? Do you want to take on more responsibility? We say yes more often than any other demographic. Even though we're asking for more responsibility, we are graduating at a higher rate than other demographic and nationalities. You still see a severe lack of representation of women of color in higher level leadership roles, in the C-suite, in the executive boardroom, sitting on the board of directors. It's very, very few of us. And if you look at just the Fortune 500 companies, the S&P 500 companies in the United States, there was one Black female CEO of Xerox, and she stepped down, I believe, a year and a half ago now. So there is no Black female CEOs in the United States leading a Fortune 500 company. And beyond that, there's less than a 3 to 5% representation of women of color in the C-suite. So I got really, really frustrated by that. And that's really a huge driver as to why this business got started. But even when you start looking at the demographics of Black women in entrepreneurship and Black women owning their own businesses, and I'm going to be reading this off of one of the reports that I found, but Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the United States. Okay, like, let me say that again. Black women are the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs in the United States. And they say the National Women's Business Council reports that there are currently 1.5 million Black women-owned businesses in the United States. This is about 67% increase from 2007. So if you look at the recession back in 2008 till now, you're seeing about a 67% increase in the amount of Black women who are starting and building their own businesses. And even though women, and this is one more like tidbit here that I want to share. Hey, Trevi. Hi, Kelly. Is while women now own 38% of all businesses in the United States, 44% of those are women-owned firms that are owned by minority women. And those owned by Black women in particularly employ over 350,000 employees and generate about $51 billion in revenue. So when you look at the higher demographic, you're seeing, I think, and this is personally what worked, this is what happened to me. But like you see, and not necessarily just me, but I'm seeing this happening consistently out in corporate America, is that you're seeing women leaning into this corporate structure, ambitious and ready to climb the corporate ladder. They're leaning into the corporate infrastructure that currently exists. They may not be granted or getting the opportunities that they are ready and that they aspire to have, that they actually have the credentials to obtain. They're leaning into this environment, probably don't know how to navigate the political playground, and they're realizing that they're not being able to progress in the corporate world, so they're leaving the corporate institution or developing a side hustle and starting their own business, basically creating their own lane, creating their own opportunity, and creating their own access. And I'm interested to know, out of everybody here who's watching this live or catching this in the replay, can you relate to that? Like, did you feel as if you were leaning into the corporate infrastructure, trying to move through the corporate ladder in advance, and you were not able, or maybe you have not been able to advance to the level that you aspire to have, and this is encouraging you and really part of the motivation as to why you're starting your own business? Let me know if you relate to that, or maybe you're not in that bucket. And this is not just for full-time entrepreneurs. Like, I had no thought or idea that I was actually going to be quitting my job. But that was a huge reason why I was starting my businesses. I didn't want to have all of my eggs in one basket. And I knew that I had been called to do something outside of just my engineering role. Zanika said, I can totally relate. Trevi said, this was me. I kept hitting a wall and realized, hey, maybe this wasn't for me. Larissa said, amen. Yes. Okay, I felt this way too and can totally relate. Yes, dropped out of corporate because advancement was limited. Started my own business to create my own opportunities. Linda, I think, is a really unique one who I'm glad that she's joining us today. Guys, Linda is an executive presence expert. She is a vice president of a very, very significant company here in Michigan that she has global responsibilities. So if you are in your career and you're looking for executive presence training or coaching, definitely check her out. But she is a vice president, African-American woman. But she said, I'm seeing the comments from some of the viewers, and those are some of the reasons that it's a challenge. Is we allow or assume that it's inherent in our ethnicities and just believe that it is just how it is. Not so. I wish I could speak and share. I will take a lot of time to type and it will scroll by. Oh, no worries, Linda. Maybe you should do a Facebook Live on this later. But I think this is something that, I mean, for one, I'd say for me personally, like didn't necessarily experience the limitations. I was very fortunate to have access to amazing mentorship, access to amazing leadership opportunities. I actually had, I feel like, doors granted open for me to advance. I thought that I was but even in those limited opportunities that I was given, I was still one of the very few women of color. So I was placed into a leadership program that was a rotational program. There was maybe three other minority females in the program. And that was very similar for all the leadership tracks that we had. But just, I think the thing that's interesting here as it pertains to entrepreneurship is that while Black women are starting businesses at a faster rate than any other ethnic demographic, we're starting faster than anybody else, but we are having limitations of being able to scale. So while Black women and minority women are starting businesses at a quicker rate, we are also earning less revenue than any other ethnic demographic that exists. And that's something that has been really disheartening to see, and something that I am, again, crazy passionate about as it pertains to like what services I provide in my business, is because like I think that, hold on, let me read some more comments here because I think this is about to get a heavy topic. Latoya said, I agree, I can relate. Takora said, yes, my last company had no desire to utilize my services after I passed the bar. I was a licensed attorney and they were comfortable having me be more than assistant rather than a contributor. Yeah. Catherine said, I don't want to wait the time to climb the ladder, then depend on them for a paycheck that they can take away. So true. Nia said, I knew it was a tough pill to swallow before I got started in corporate America. I never intended to stay and still don't. Linda said, climbing the corporate ladder takes work, initiative, and the willingness. It takes understanding your corporate culture and what it means to build relationships and leverage those. Jay, your success as a consumer is an example of that. And I think that's so true. Thanks again for saying that. I think, again, this also corresponds to business. So I think, one, because of systematic reasons, systematic racism, systematic oppression, and everything else, I think just Blacks in general or minorities that have experience in the United States is a huge contributor as to why there's still current challenges that exist for us in the corporate environment, but also when it comes to entrepreneurship. So I don't want to negate that, but I don't want to focus the conversation on that. But I think outside from that, if you're a woman in tech, I know there's a lot of issues as it pertains to like getting capital and getting funding for like the traditional tech startups. I know African-American women on average like get significantly less capital investment than like white men. But I think the thing that has been really eye-opening to me, and again, what I've already mentioned to you guys, is that so many of us here have started our business for one reason or another. Maybe we have been leaning into a corporate structure and we felt as if we weren't getting anywhere, or we felt as if we wanted to take more control over the options and choices that would pertain to our futures, pertain to our wealth generation, pertain to our like income potential and opportunities. We know maybe we've been called or felt as if we, wanted to start a business because we wanted to, again, have more control over our paychecks. Or maybe it was because you're like, screw the system, I want to do it my way or do it whatever. But I think this goes back to Linda's point, is that I think in Black culture, and y'all feel free to chime in on this. Some of y'all might not agree with what I have to say, but this is just at least my experience and what I've seen to be true and what I see from my clients. So feel free to hop in the comments and let's have like a frank conversation about this. But one thing that I've seen in particular to Black culture is a lot of us, especially Blacks, and I think this is, again, due to so much of what else our race and our ethnic background, what we've experienced as a race, is that sometimes we feel as if just because I'm here, I should, like, people should just support me just because I'm here. And I'm not saying this is true for everybody, but this is a mindset that I have seen happen often. Like, a lot of people think because I started a business and I'm Black owned, I should be afforded opportunities just off the strength that I'm Black owned. Or because I'm a female Black owned business or a female minority owned business, I should just get afforded access to opportunities off the strength that I'm just Black and female owned. And I've seen this happen even in corporate. People are like, well, I'm the only Black person here, like, y'all should give me access. And I've been seeing this even recently posted on Facebook posts, where I've been seeing some of my colleagues and peers here in Detroit, like, looking for mentorship or looking for some sort of like, higher level guidance from somebody else who's made it. And they're wondering, like, why aren't, people pulling back into the younger Black communities and pulling up these millennials and like training them up. And I think this goes back to Linda's point, where she said, like, it takes an understanding, one, of culture, but two, building relationships, leveraging those. And like, it takes work. Like, so I think one of the points I'm trying to say, and I'm not saying that everybody is in this boat, but this is something I have to remind myself too, is that yes, being Black, being a female, being a double minority presents and comes with like inherent challenges and unique barriers that a lot of other demographics do not have to face because they have privilege. And I think that that is something that is true. But at the same time, like, we can't rest on the fact that, or we can't allow like that to stop us from excelling. Like, yeah, I understand that a white man may have it a little bit easier than me because of other things or because he has privilege. But like, at the same time, we can't keep using that excuse for forever, thinking things are just going to change. Like, it goes back, I think, to Linda's point where there's things that, and I'll read Linda's point. We also can't have a chip on our shoulder. Yes, I too don't dismiss the reality, but my point is that it is possible. But like, being an entrepreneur, it takes work. It takes understanding how we show up. That is important, whether we're in corporate America or not, and understanding the game. You have to be politically savvy, know the game, and know how to play it ethically. And that is like so true. And I think I'm so fortunate that I have amazing mentors. I call them my board of directors, and they're like my creative parents. And Linda is one of those individuals on that board who is like, you have to learn how to play the game before you can, like, if you ever expect to succeed at it. And I think this is something that normally doesn't get talked about, especially in the corporate environment. And like, one of my mentors is a white man who's a VP also at a Fortune 500 company. So like, having both dynamics of having like somebody who's made it to the top, who's an African-American woman who has killed the game, but also somebody who, and I think this is why it's so important for us to have diversity in our mentorship. Because there's just certain experiences that I will never be afforded. Like, I will have completely different experiences than like a white man would have experiences, especially in some of these corporate environments. So that's why I think diversity in mentorship is so key and so important. But like, I think we have got to learn how to play the game. And if you are sitting here saying or thinking that there is no game, or I don't want to play politics, like, you're already out the game. Like, you've already lost. Because like, no, I don't like playing politics. No, I don't like sitting here trying to like learn how to maneuver. And I don't want to say finesse, but like learning how to navigate these waters. But like, it's a reality. We live in America, which is built on what we all know what America has been built on. So like, there is a political landscape that you have to learn how to navigate, regardless if you're in entrepreneurship or in corporate America. So like, I think first and foremost, what's really stopping, I think, some of us from being able to excel or being able to lean in and get somewhere is even being able to recognize that like, this is a game, and you have to learn how to play the game and play it effectively. And I'm not saying that you need to diminish who you are or diminish where you came from or diminish, I think to Linda's point, playing it ethically. Like, you don't need to devalue who you are or conform to society's standards, but you do need to recognize that there is like, the game does exist. Nia said, I agree, but I also think it's important to recognize why we approach things that way. For centuries, we were trying to be seen in America. No one has taught or is teaching us how to be valuable now that we have the opportunity to be in the room. Like, I think that is, I mean, Nia, I agree with all the comments that have been made so far that at least I've read out loud. I want to read Loa's too. So she had two different experiences. One company had a lot of women and people of color in positions of power, so more inclusive and regular promoted. Also, they more inclusively and regularly promoted people of color. Other companies, predominantly white and white women in positions of power, lack of training how to interact with women and people of color, no desire to learn. Women fight to be ahead, almost no people of color at executive level. This is very true. Affluent white people teach their kids the game from day one. Most of them know and having a job will only take your pocket so far. The real wealth is when you create, not the job you do. Like, I think that is so, and it's true. So I'm not disregarding the fact that this stuff, like, disregarding the reality that exists, but I'm just saying that now that we know what the reality is, what are we going to do? And like, how are we going to show up differently? How are we going to play differently? And I think some things, regardless if you're in corporate or regardless if you're in business, and I think this is very, very true for businesses, is I see a lot of Black women starting businesses and they are scared or do not have a desire to do business with people outside of their race. And I'm not sure if anybody here can relate to that, but I know a lot of women that I've came across and who I serve and who my clients are, they have an extreme discomfort or a lack of any sort of drive or passion to do business with people outside of their ethnic demographic and race. And I think this is something that I think it goes back to some of the earlier points. Like, if you were grown up in a Black city, went to all Black schools, have experienced, like, you know, some of the challenges that we experience regardless with our jobs or whatever, and then you start a business, some of us don't even know how to do business with white people or how to do business with other ethnic demographics. Like, and I think that's something that really does hinder our progression and our ability to grow, because one, even if those individuals aren't clients, like even if you're just predominantly dealing with African-American clients, like even though I'm open to receiving and accepting anybody, majority of my clients are African-American women. And I think because I'm still in the infancy stages of my business, when I communicate my vision and my purpose and my passion, I think people who look like me are attracted to me. They see somebody who looks like them, who's succeeding at what they aspire to do, so they are attracted to me. But by no means am I only like, and this is why even when it comes to who I hire, the coaches I hire, the mentorship I seek out, the books I read, the conferences I attend, I am crazy intentional on making sure that I'm not just surrounding myself and learning from communities that only look like me. Like, I barely even go to Black conferences. And it's not to say that I don't respect or value Black like type of events, but I want to be well-rounded. I don't want to just pigeonhole myself or only think from a limited perspective of just experience, background, education, ideas, thought process only from people who are Black. And I mean, I'm biracial, but even though I'm biracial, I was raised by my Black family. I just identify a bit more with my Black ethnic background. Yeah, and Nia, like, so true. She said, like, that's, you know, BS. Like, that's exactly why I went to schools I went to. And my community is Black. I chose white schools to ensure my comfort in a white world. And I think that is an intentional choice that, I don't know, I think there's benefit to it. So I think the point that I'm trying to make, and I think that sometimes, at least from the experience that I have, where I see some people, I'm not saying that, like, only doing business with Black and only building wealth with Black is a bad thing. I just think that there is value in having diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of leadership, diversity of where you're getting your education. Linda said we need to be excellent within our abilities, strengths, and talents. I'm not about tackling anything that no one else can't do, but be about the business of being excellent within your talent and rise. Like, yeah, I completely agree with that. It's not discomfort for me. It's more seeing we are underrepresented in when I was the only dark-skinned girl in elementary school, and I was so disconnected because I know they don't understand me and I hid who I was. It wasn't until high school that some people knew I was Spanish. Vienna, I can relate to that. I mean, I grew up in all-white neighborhoods. So I grew up in the white suburbs, went to all-white schools. I went to all-white colleges. Like, the first time I was surrounded by like a ton of Black people was when I went to Atlanta for the first time. That was just a couple years ago. And I was more uncomfortable being in a room full of Black people just because I had never experienced that before. And even like I attended the MTY, the My Taught You retreat earlier this year in Mexico that Myleik Teal put on. That was the first time I had ever been in a room with that many Black women before. And I think, like, again, I think the main point that I'm trying to make here that I think can slow our progress and our ability to scale sometimes is the fact that we are, I'm just being honest. I know that might be funny, but like, I'm just being honest. Like, that's something I struggled with. Like, I'm like, I don't know why because that's my norm. That's not my norm. My norm is, so whatever. But I think the point that I'm trying to make is I just think that there's a huge advantage in being intentional on making sure that where you're getting your education from, who you're learning from, who your mentors are, the relationships that you're developing, your friendship, business besties, the coaching programs, all the things that you're doing, that you have some sort of representation from have different representation of people who don't look like you. Because one, they have privileges that you don't have. They have insight in and experiences that can add value to you that you might not have access to experiencing. And so I just want to make that point as well. But I think one thing is, like, we're starting businesses, but we're not able to scale. And why is that happening with Black individuals, and especially Black women? And I think this goes back to Nia's earlier point about, one, we've never been taught wealth. I'd say majority of us, I won't say most of us, but I'll say a lot of my experience, I'll just speak for myself. One, I was not taught wealth creation. I was not taught entrepreneurship. We were taught how to hustle and how and I think this is something that Blacks are just amazing at. We are very buoyant individuals. We have a lot of heart. We know how to turn something from nothing into something. My grandma, I still don't know how she afforded to live out in them suburbs, but every month she made it work. Every month she figured it out. So I think that's something that, one, we have to start looking at our past experiences, not as a disadvantage, but learn how to leverage those to our advantage, in the sense that we know how to create something out of nothing. My grandma might not have much in the fridge, but she would make a full dinner. Now that I'm learning about the Bible and understanding what God did, I'm my grandma then took these 2 pieces of fish and these 5 pieces of bread and fed the village. I'm like, Ma, what did you do? Baby, don't worry about it. Just go in there and eat your dinner now. Just sit on down. But so I think that we need to start looking at that not as a disadvantage, but as an advantage, that we are very buoyant individuals. We know how to pivot and adjust. Life might be hitting us hard, but we know how to bounce back. But I think the second thing here is also we need to recognize where our weaknesses are. Recognize the fact that one, I was not taught money management, anything about finance. I was not taught wealth creation. The only thing I knew about money before I opened up a Susie Orman book was that we live paycheck to paycheck. It's pretty much what I was taught. We live paycheck to paycheck. And the second somebody gets some money, what do? They go blow it. They go floss. They go cash out on whoop-de-whoop on whatever. They over here buying a Mercedes. They don't know how they're going to pay for the maintenance though. Or they buying a leather coat in the wintertime, in the summertime, just because they don't know they don't even know what to do with money. So that's all I knew was that the second somebody gets money, they blow it. And that we live paycheck to paycheck, that there's never any money over. We don't have money to go do that. There is no money in savings. People don't have insurance. God forbid, when most of my family does not have, I have no idea how their funeral costs are going to get covered. But that's normal to me. That's the norm. So I think something that we also have to recognize is that most of us, and I think there's a lot of Blacks who do have entrepreneurial backgrounds, but there's a difference between starting a business, and just being able to go out and say, I started a business, I got an LLC, I put the walls up, versus actually building a business that is exponentially growing, that you're able to manage and maintain, and that is actually generating a consistent profit year after year after year. Those are 2 different ball games. Because I see so many people, especially in the Black community, and I think this happens in every community regardless, but I think the Black community is just closer to me, where we're starting businesses that just turn into second jobs. We still scraping, barely getting by, not making no money, still struggling. So I think that we have to do a better job of recognizing where our gaps and our weaknesses are, and having the courage and the bravery to speak up and say, I need help here. And don't go talk to your broke cousin about how to make more money. He broke. He ain't gonna be able, what is he gonna do? Give you broke advice? Or don't talk to just your broke friends. If your broke friends ain't got no money, don't know how to manage money, please tell me how their advice is going to help you progress and move forward. Or if you're trying to build a business, and maybe all of your friends are trying to build businesses, but all of y'all are on the same struggle bus together, the struggle short bus where y'all barely chugging along, one, keep riding out together, but maybe it's time to identify where your gaps are and identify and go find somebody else who can pour into you. Because I think something else that I say, Black women in particular, I think we are extremely independent individuals, especially Black women. And talking about marriage and some of the other stuff that I'm learning now as I'm reading all this Esther Perel and Brene Brown and blah, blah, blah. Black women, I think that we have been put in a position, especially over at least my generation and maybe the one before, where there's a lot of single moms. There's a lot of us who we've had to learn how to fend for ourselves. And I think sometimes, especially for Black women, at least for what I see, is that spills over to how we build our businesses, that we think that we have to do it alone. And I think in the Black culture, versus the Jewish community, that is a community. If you go to if Jews come together, and I think that's one of the ethnic demographics that I think can more closely relate to Black experience because of what happened with them in the Holocaust. But I think Jews, when they come together, it is a community. If somebody is Jewish and they go to somebody else Jewish, bro, I need a job. They got you. I need to start this business. Here's an investment. Blacks, girl, bye. I can barely call. Like, who am I gonna call? Like Blacks, I feel like we all out here trying to win solo fights rather than coming together as a community. And I think this is something that I think happens often, but I just think that's something that's true to our culture, at least for what I know to be true, and at least for what I've experienced. So I think that one thing, especially for women, is like, I understand why we've had to be so independent and why we've had to like learn how to fend for ourselves and why we've had to do so much for ourselves by ourselves. But I think one thing that we have got to recognize that in order for us, building a business is not some easy thing to do. Like building a business that, like, I think it might sound cute, like, oh girl, I'm an entrepreneur, I got my own, whoop-de-whoop. But like, if you look at any of the data, the average small business minority woman-owned company is making less than $22,000 a year. And like that's less than the average of small business owners, which on average small business owners are making like $44,000 a year. So like, yeah, we might be starting them at a faster rate, but we're also experiencing a lack of ability of being able to even, I'm not even saying scale, like just generate profit. But I think we have also got to be courageous and step outside and say, yes, I know I'm independent. And yes, I know I've had to do X, Y, and Z on my own before, but this is one area in my life where I want to do different, where I know that it is okay and there's nothing wrong. It is not devaluing my worth or who I am to sit here and say that I need help and to seek out that expert advice, guidance and advice. And I think our frame of reference and our mindset when it comes to investing, and I don't even like using the word investing, like just flat out paying the full price for stuff that is going to benefit us in the long run. Like, I don't know, like we can be cheap, y'all. Not even saying cheap, but I think we just have our priorities can lack a real alignment with what our goals and objectives are. Because, and I use this reference all the time because it baffles me that some of my girlfriends have been wanting to start a business for like 2 years. And they always tell me like, Jay, I ain't got it. Jay, I ain't got it. I ain't got the money to start. But every other month, I see them with a whole new head of like bundles and weave. And I'm like, you just dropped $600-700 on your hair. And you do that every 2 or 3 months. So let's just say you do it every quarter and you drop $600 a quarter on your hair. 6, 12, 18, 24. That's $2,400 that you could have used to actually start your business. And I just think that like, because we haven't been taught wealth management, because we haven't been taught more financial acumen of being able to more properly budget and manage and maintain our income, that we sometimes will put value and put a priority on aspects of our life that have that are not assets, that do not have any return on the investment, that have no real value. Like how many people do you know in your family who got cars that they, good and well they can't afford? They went out here and like broke their back to go get a lease so they could stunt on Friday nights driving down whatever in some foreign vehicle that they really cannot afford. Or how many dudes do you know out here buying booths on Friday night? Like, bro, like you literally worked Monday through Thursday just so you could stunt Friday and Saturday, be broke on Sunday, ain't got nothing to tithe, and then you start the week over again. And I think one thing that we can all practically do is everybody and write this down as a homework assignment. Go your receipts show where your priorities lie. Go back and look at the last month of expenses. Where did you spend your money? And it's a tough reality, I think, sometimes for us to be able to face and experience. But like, go look at your receipts. Go look at where you spent your money. Where did you spend your money? And where you spent your money, is that in alignment with what your goals and objectives are? So I understand that some of us may be starting the game at a further behind point than other ethnic demographics and other genders. But like, when are we going to decide to turn the boat and start pivoting and going somewhere else? Let me read the comments. Jordan said, talk about that opportunity cost. $2,400 for hair or for business. Like $2,400 would have bought you at least a course, a high level course, and bought you your website, bought you your domain name, bought you your Gmail suite, bought you some of the tech and tools you need. Like $2,400 is all right. Yeah, your receipts show where your priorities lie. And I think something else that kind of boils into this, and I think this is part of the reason why some Black women have challenges in business, is our mindset around our security and our comfort within ourselves. And this is one that I do not see talked about often, but I think the thing that I'm learning about building my business, 80% of it is mindset. 80% of it is my mental capacity. And I think so many of us for so long have felt like we have not belonged, that we were not enough, that we did not that we maybe were not deserving of certain opportunities, that it was not expected for us to succeed in a certain area, that like we never thought it or believed it to be true that we could earn a certain income. And because of these damaging and limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves, because of what society, what our ancestry, what we've been taught and what we've seen, that impacts how we show up in our businesses. So if you lack the confidence to be able to like own, and I'm not saying that we're not confident. I feel like Black women especially are some of the most flawless, honey, try me if you want to type of demographic. You see the hand snatch. We'll grab it back real quick. I think we're some of the most like courageous individuals in the world, but I think sometimes when it comes to our ability to show up, we experience like, and I think this is pretty much with any female, women especially, but we experience like we negotiate less than any other, like than men. You know, we sometimes are scared to like ask for our value or charge our worth or like put a price tag on what our services are that we know that we're confident about. Like, or sometimes we lack the confidence to be able to communicate what our prices are, or like to be able to, because, or just to believe that we are allowed to earn a certain amount of income from something that we started, not because somebody else validated us by saying, hey, this is your salary, this is what you're worth, this is what you're going to be paid, but us being able to validate ourselves. And I think, at least for me, I've experienced that. Like, who am I to sit here and earn six figures? Who am I, this little Black girl who grew up without her parents, to be able to experience the lifetime of experiences I'm having? Who am I, you know, a woman who's been sexually assaulted and abandoned by her parents? Who am I to receive real love? Like, who am I to receive good quality friends in my life? And I think sometimes that's personal issues that we're dealing with. And I think there's a ton, like a slew of stuff that comes around with why that is what it is. But I think that really does pour over into how we build our businesses, and really one of the main things that prevents us from ever truly growing. I know, Laura, I'm done. Nia said, I say and truly believe entrepreneurship is a hidden journey for self-discovery. So many of us stop being entrepreneurs and thus unfortunately stop or dramatically slow the journey of self-discovery. I think that entrepreneurship is the best therapy like that exists. And so many of us will fail to succeed mainly because we cannot get through our own junk. And this even goes into like being able to pivot your business model. So many women, I think, attach their identity to what their business is. So if they built a part of their business and that part of their business is like not generating revenue, is not growing, is not scaling, they're scared to let it go. Why? Because what do most Black women say? Or most women, period. What do they say? That's my baby. My business is my baby. That's my baby. That's my baby. Your business is not your child. Just because you have to cut off a certain part of your business does not mean you're like, it's not your baby. Like it is, I know it's something that you might have birthed. It's something that might have came out of you, but we have to be able to detach. Like Lovey said it best at the MTY, at the My Taught You retreat, because she was like, so many of us have these attachment to our ideas and attachment to our businesses that like if we ever need to let something go or to fire somebody or to cut, again, like Jordan is the queen of slash a part of our business model, more of our emotional reaction to that is attached to stuff that we've never dealt with from our childhood. So like, you know, like I think for me, this is definitely for me, when I had my Goal Getter group, it was a monthly membership site and Jordan was there. We were in Florida right before my retreat for Goal Getter Elite last year. And I had to slash my membership group. And I'm like, Jordan, I just feel like the people in the group need more hands-on support. Like I cannot let this go. And we really got to the root cause of it. Like I felt like if I cut that part of my business model, I'd be acting like my mother who abandoned me. It ain't got nothing to do with business. It has to do with my own personal junk. But that stuff pours over into our business and prevents us from being able to really to grow in the areas that we need to grow into. You know, like we put all this attachment onto it. I think women just do that. I'm not sure if men do that, but I know that was something I struggle with did struggle with, continue to struggle with, is being able to like look at the numbers and look at the facts. And not to say that my feelings aren't valid, but like my leak says this all the time, your feelings are not facts. And I just think as women, like I just think we tend to do that, and which I think really can prevent us from truly being able to like advance in our business, because we don't know how to let things go. But the reason why we can't let it go is more so tied to our own personal junk from the past. I'm loving these comments so more, but I wanted to talk about that. I just think that it's something that, I don't know, I've been seeing a lot of, I say another thing in regards to Black women, which I think is really interesting, is like, I looked up what type of businesses are Black women starting. So they say that Black women are starting businesses at a faster rate than any other race, any other ethnic demographic. But what businesses are we starting? And I think they say a lot of us are starting service-based businesses primarily. There's 2.8 million, basically 23% of all women-owned firms are service-based businesses. And I'm like, that's us, let's go. And another 12% are more of the professional or technical services, meaning like management, consulting firms, lawyers, accountants, public relations firms. So and again, that's also a service-based business, consultant. So if you look at that, that is about 35% of all women-owned businesses are in the service-based capacity. Outside of that, you have about 12% in tech, about 11% in admin support, management services, again, service-based businesses. You see 9% in trade. You see a good amount in construction, which I think is pretty interesting. But majority of women-owned businesses are in the service-based capacity. And the reason why I think services primarily is where we are starting, I think this goes back to like the comment of there's a lack of access to capital and investment funds for women, for Black women in particular. So service-based businesses, and this is also like something I really do believe, that there's a very low cost of entry to start selling services. So if you are new in entrepreneurship, I think there's a really smart move to start by selling a service first versus like building a product-based business. Because if you're starting to sell services, your only overhead might be like your phone, whatever online software tools you might need, potentially coaching and training, versus if you start a product-based business, you have to like buy the inventory, deal with shipping, deal with like more like logistical situations, actually either creating your product, purchasing it wholesale, whatever the case may be. There's just more cost associated with building that type of business. So I think that's also an interesting caveat. And I think for all of you guys that are here, if you are starting in services, I think it's a smart move. Because if you do ever want to get to a point where you are moving more into a product-based business or scaling to a different type of business model, starting with services will at least help you start to generate income, generate profit, where you can be your own lender, where you can lend capital to yourself because you've used one business idea to fund the second or to fund the third. So I just thought that was a really interesting thing too, that like, I guess when you really look at the numbers, I'd say over 50% of women-owned businesses are in some service-based capacity, whether that's nail, hair, consulting, lawyer, accountants, public relations, coaches, that type of thing. They're all in the service capacity. So this was more of a kind of like a bit of a rant, I think, today, but I thought it was a healthy discussion, something to think about. I think really boiling it all back down is one, like really learn the game, learn the industry that you are in. And I think to Linda's point earlier, become an expert at it, regardless if you're Black, white, blue, purple, male, female, whatever your situation is. Just how can you focus on personal mastery? To be able to like, there is value, be intentional on diversifying your friend circle, diversifying who you're getting education from, diversifying like the rooms that you are putting yourself in or choosing not to be in. Like there is value in having diversity of education, background, ethnicity, gender, race. There's value in that. So like evaluate your existing circle and see where you can identify other opportunities for you to like to experience new things, new cultures, new ways of doing things, even if that's just new industries. So like, I've been going to a lot more like beauty and like PR type of events lately because I want to see how they do business is really different than how I do business, but I'm able to learn and grow because I can see something they're doing and innovate my industry because of it. I think third is really being able to identify where your gaps are and have the courage and the bravery to speak up and go seek expert advice in an area that you're not strong in. I think also is like owning your shit, owning the unique things about you that do make you different, but not looking at those things as deficiencies, but really being able to leverage those things as like really what makes you like your unique value add. And I think finally, what was the other point that we talked about? I think is like knowing when to differentiate or disassociate your personal stuff that you need to work through versus like what's going on in your business. So like that means you need to get rid of part of your business or pivot and adjust your business model or develop a new strategy, be able to disassociate like your own personal junk from maybe what's actually really going on and like the facts and the numbers of the reality of your situation. So I don't know. I just thought this would be good to chat about, something heavy on my heart lately, kind of bit of a rant. I really appreciate everybody in the comments and being able to chime into this conversation. Next Tuesday at 1 p.m. So basically every Tuesday at 1 p.m. we're doing Facebook Lives, and we're calling it the Jereshia Said Show. So if you want to receive a reminder for next week's call or next week's Facebook Live, you can just click the link in the title of my description or click the link in the chat below. Next week, we're going to be talking all about what to do when you're struggling to sell your services. So I look forward to seeing you guys for episode 10. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll chat with y'all soon. Bye, everybody.